It became apparent from the very beginning of this second fight that Volk was going to have to switch some stuff up from their first meetup. We're going to talk about what he switched up, why he had to do it, and a whole bunch more. But before we get in, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I will be coming out with a full version that will have segments that we can view. It will be available to the paid Patreon members. You guys can peep that in the link in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. First things first, what did Volk have to switch up? The defining story of much of that last fight was Volk's movement off towards his right. Now, Diego had to play a lot of catch up. His footwork tended to waltz with Volk. And when you are waltzing with someone and you're following their lead, they're always going to be a step ahead. Now, Diego did his homework. In the very beginning of the first round, we saw Volk trying to circle off towards his right, but instead of waltzing, Diego immediately started to move laterally to cut the ring off. Then Volk understood, okay, I got to switch the game a little bit and I have to start circling towards my left. Now, this is all under a larger principle of splitting the body. The first place I heard this was Timothy Bradley, and Tim Bradley was talking about this as a strategy that a bunch of the old heads used to use. And he was, if I remember correctly, he was lamenting that a lot of the new guys don't hammer this in their training as much. Splitting the body means moving off in one direction towards one of their flanks such that you neutralize their opposite side because it's a little bit further away from you. So, for example, people say circle away from their power side. This is super common. And why? Because that makes it further for their power side to reach you, thus neutralizing much of that power side. Now, in this fight, Volk opted to circle towards the power side. Now, a lot of folks say circling towards the power side is dangerous. Sure, anything is dangerous, but there's ways to mitigate that danger. And Volk played a lot of beautiful game in mitigating that danger when circling to the power side. What did he do? You're not just circling and getting closer to Diego's rear side or his right side if he's in conventional stance, because now you're going to get closer to his right punch or his right kick. Instead, Volk did a couple things. One, he circled with distance. So he's still circling off towards Diego's right, but he's going to have a good bit more distance. More distance means more margin for error and more time with which you can react to his shots. Second, he is going to use his lead glove as he circles and touch. He's going to touch Diego's lead glove. That is going to put up a roadblock such that Diego, if he wants to throw that lead glove, has to go around Volk's glove touch. Next, if there are, did I say two things? My bad. I'm just talking, y'all. If there are offensive techniques coming from the lower body, for example, a calf kick, you still want to be able to address and defend those calf kicks. So it's not just circling towards the power side with distance. It's not just touching that glove to monitor the rear side glove, but it's circling peppered in with small retreating steps back should you need to get out of the way of a lower body attack. All of this allows you guys to circle into an opponent's power, but do so safely and set up a lot of good game like we've seen from Volk. Now, we're going to talk about some of that game. The first is Volk's right hand. Now, it's understandable that when you circle off towards your left, you are lining your right shoulder, given that this is a closed stance matchup with both athletes in conventional stance. You're lining up your right shoulder with their jaw. So as I circle, that right shoulder gets closer to their center line, and then I have an easier path for my right hand. Volk did this very well, but we have to also understand Diego's game. Diego from the first fight was quite open to getting hit with the right hand. And why is that? There is a path above Diego's jab when that jab is out, this path here, just above Diego's shoulder, is usually pretty open, and he doesn't tend to do a great job defending that path if you try to take advantage of it. In the last fight, we saw Volk moving off towards his right. When Volk is moving off towards his right, chances are his right straight is going to come from the outside of Diego's jab. So when Diego jabs, Volk's right straight is coming from the outside of it. In this fight, with Volk circling off into Diego's power side, when the jab comes in, it can either go over or inside. And this is all about where your body positioning is in relation to your opponent's center line. Or more, if we zoom in more, it's specifically where your shoulder positioning is in relation to their center line. In the last fight, we saw a lot of Volk circling to the outside of Diego's jab, tapping the jab down and firing over top. In this fight, we didn't see, I think we saw a couple of instances of that, but we also just saw Volk circling off, throwing his double jab, and then lining up his right straight. Again, using that footwork to line up his shoulder. Now, there's a bunch of other things that were in Volk's game because of this circling out. But one thing I want to talk about is the switching of the stance of Diego. So when Diego switched to southpaw, Volk relied on shifting or switching offense. So Volk would throw a rear side shot, and as he threw that rear side shot, his rear foot would come up. At this point, Volk is also in southpaw, so it's a closed stance match. And from there, Volk would throw his left hand over top of the lead shoulder of Diego to clip. Now, this is a perfectly fine option, but understand there's going to be risks to switching. Those of you guys who follow me on Patreon know that I talk quite a bit about the potential risks of switching. And one of those potential risks is while you are in the process of switching your stance, you are neutraled up. And when you're neutraled up with that momentum coming forward, your defenses are going to lack a little bit. And it was in this position that Volk got dropped by Diego. So again, nothing is going to be perfect in a fight. The switching offense did quite well. And I don't believe we saw it, but one of Volk's coaches had a great read, which was as you switch with your right hand, Diego's dropping his head down. So instead of throwing your follow-up left, throw that follow-up uppercut to pop his head back up. I can't remember if Volk was able to pull it off, but again, just beautiful read by Volk's coaches. But again, the risk is always there. You have to be careful when switching because you can get clipped mid-switch. Let's see. Another thing that Volk had to deal with was the low kicks and the calf kicks from Diego. And again, this is understandable. As I had mentioned in the beginning of this study, when you're circling off to your left, you want to make sure to pepper the circle in with your retreating steps if you need to. Those of you guys who are not focusing on footwork because it's boring, I get it. But this is the stuff that you need to do. And I've been getting some requests about footwork on the Patreon. So I actually have a footwork study that is in the mix. So I will be dropping that for the members. But understand, guys, when you guys are focusing on circling towards their power side, you have to be able to address their power side shots, their rear kick, rear punch. There were a few times where Volk circled right into the calf kick or the low kick from Diego. So you want to be able to pepper the retreating steps and make sure that your weight distribution isn't fully on your lead leg when you're circling, such that you can get timed with those low kicks. Let's see. let's talk about one of the things that Diego did quite well. And this is taking advantage of the defensive pattern of Volk. And what is that defensive pattern? If you can back him up, generally, you can get him to get tall. And when you get tall, Volk obviously is not the tallest guy. I think he's 5'6" or 7 or 5'5", something, 5'6", give or take an inch. So obviously Diego is the taller athlete. However, when you get tall, chances are you're going to expose more of your gut. Diego did a great job with the high-low jab. The high jab got Volk to pull back and get tall, exposing right here. When you expose here, Diego went downstairs to take advantage of that open real estate. Now, he wasn't able to do terribly much off of this, but again, good game from Diego. Um, the next thing that Diego did well, at certain points, he wasn't able to make this consistent enough, which is a shame because from his perspective, you could win a fight doing things like this, but it's the negatives. When Diego was on the negatives heavy, he was actually getting good bites, or at the very least, he was stifling Volk's initiation of offense. And when you can stifle that initiation of offense, or even better, if you can get them biting really heavy to your negatives, this is the prime time for you to actually start setting up your offense. Again, unfortunately for him, he was not able to stick with it, but especially, I believe he had Volk on the cage a few times, and he was able to do a really good job leading the dance with the negatives, such that at one point, Volk actually had to shoot to change the course of the fight. So Volk went from a defensive cycle, constantly biting to negatives from Diego, into an offensive cycle by saying, hey, look, you're beating me at this battle. I'm not even going to play it with you. I'm going to just shoot and immediately force you to defend the takedown, putting you from an offensive cycle into a defensive cycle. And then we can reset, and then I can try to implement my game again. So great uh, adjustments on the fly from Volk, but we got to give Diego his props. He did do a good job at certain times. Again, unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep it up and change the tide of the fight, but this was good money from Diego as well. Guys, what are your thoughts? Did you? I imagine most of y'all were picking Volk to win this. Did you guys see any of the stuff I'm referring to? Did you guys see anything else different from the first fight? By no means is this an exhaustive study. I'm just hollering about some things that I have seen before. But if you've seen anything else, I want to hear. Go ahead and comment it below. Again, guys, we will be dropping a full study that will show the video segments that correlate to what patreon.com/boring breakdowns. It's also the best way to support the work. But if not, it's totally cool. Simply liking this video, commenting, sharing it with the homies at the gym, subscribing to the channel is all a huge help. We have some free memberships available on the Patreon as well. Guys, thank you all so much for the support. I will catch up with y'all on the next one. Peace.